What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai. If you want to help me out, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
I agreed with him. The money figure shocked me at first, but thinking about it with a cool head, we didn't have to worry about anyone actually claiming it.
Molly, let's go with it. Make it happen.
Very well, my lord.
And try to get as many people coming here to take the challenge as you can.
Let's tout it up as much as possible, then. We could call it the Demon Lord's Challenge.
Would that work as advertising? Actually, wait a second. If I was going to keep calling myself Demon Lord, there was a good chance that reckless, suicidal people would keep on trying to fight me. It was a pain to deal with each and every
opportunity to fight me. That applies to you, too, Masayuki, so if people tell you to take—
I have no intention of fighting you at all. Thanks.
Oh, I know. Well,